In this episode, we're going to take a look at some of the raddest rides in 80s villain toys. So, stick around. Dorks and Dorkettes, and welcome to Nostalgia Syndrome. My name is Rob, and in this episode we are going to be taking a look at some of the raddest rides in 80s action figure toys. More specifically, the villains. As we celebrate Mayhem May with a spotlight on all things bad. Not bad as in bad products, but bad as in the villains. We are taking a look at all things villainous. That sounds better. So, without further ado, let's get to number one. Our first vehicle wasn't specifically made for the villains, but it definitely is a villainous vehicle. You'll know what I mean when we take a look at it, and I don't think I have to say who this vehicle belonged to, because I don't want to end up on anyone's bad list by saying the word out loud. So, we'll all know. Yeah, we'll know. I know, you know, we all know. But anyway, this happens to also be the most expensive vehicle on this list, and we'll get to that in a few moments. Anyway, this is from Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark, released by Kenner in 1983, and this is the Desert Convoy truck. Like I said, we all know whose convoy it was, but I ain't saying the word. I ain't going to end up on some freaky algorithm somewhere. But this is definitely a villainous vehicle that the hero ends up stealing. Now, this is a pretty simplistic truck. And, I mean, it accommodates a figure, be it Indy or one of the bad guys. And it has a retractable rope feature in the back that you can recreate the scene in the movie where he's being drugged behind the truck. So all in all, it's a very cool vehicle, and it's the perfect scale if you wanted to include this truck into your G.I. Joe Playtime universe. It could be a Joe truck or a Cobra truck. I would think a Joe truck because of the green color, but like I said, this is pretty simplistic and it doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles, but it's pretty cool regardless. And like I said, this is definitely the most expensive vehicle on this list when it comes to the resale value. Of course, this high number comes from one still sealed in box, but that's a crazy price. Our next vehicle comes from the Power Lords toy line, released by Revell in 1982. This is the villainous Arcus's Power Sled Spyzor. Now, one of the play features of Spyzor was that it came with 2 stun missiles that it could launch out of its front cannon. It also had covers for a weapons compartment and a battery compartment. Now, this is an awesome looking vehicle, and once you add Arcus on it, I mean, it's a match made in heaven. Because of his color scheme, the sled's color scheme, it just looks great together. Now, this is another toy that doesn't have a lot of fluctuation between the lowest price and the highest price when it comes to the resale value. And that's expected because Power Lords is kind of a rarity out there on the open market, and I'm sure a lot of collectors are clamoring to get their hands on one of these. Our third vehicle comes from the Voltron toy line, and this is the Doom Blaster, released by Panache Place in 1984. Now, the awesome play feature of the Doom Blaster is it indeed blasts. It blasts little discs out of it, and that's awesome. Do you remember those disc shooting guns? Now, it's not like those discs. These are more solid, hard plastic, so there's potential to put out an eye. But, I mean, very simplistic style, very cool, has some really bright and colorful stickers on it, and a very simplistic cockpit, which is kind of a disappointment. But, all in all, that type of play feature sells this vehicle easily. Our fourth vehicle is the counterpart of one that I spoke about in a much earlier episode of Raddest Rides. This is the Garax sword ship from the Defenders of the Earth toy line, released by Galoob in 1986. Now, the awesome play feature of this is, of course, you get a spaceship, and it's a pretty nice spaceship at that. But the nose of the spaceship can be elongated, and it turns into a sword. Now, I can find a lot of these online that are still in the box, which is pretty surprising. But when it comes to finding them out of box and ultimately a little bit cheaper, they are missing so many different parts. So some of these pictures, of course, are missing parts, but I wanted to show just the guts of this awesome vehicle. Now, I mean, I wouldn't know where to start. Would I put a figure in it and fly it around? Or would I take that blade out and start chasing people around? I mean, like I said, this has limitless possibilities of playtime fun, and I am definitely on board. Our fifth and final Raddest ride of 80s toys comes from the Cops and Crooks toy line, released by Hasbro in 1988. This is the Dragster. This is a villainous vehicle that touts some pretty interesting specs on the back of the box, like sturdy construction, roll bars, and this awesome play feature which utilizes the cap firing shtick of the Cops toy line. This thing on the back is pretty much a hammer. You would load up the caps and swing it back and forth to hit the cop characters while it would be firing the caps as it impacted. But the hammer, pretty cool. I mean, I can imagine the crooks are speeding down the highway, neck and neck with one of the cop vehicles, and bam, the hammer goes cracking against their vehicle, sending them careening off. I mean, so pretty cool functionality. And you know me, I'm a huge fan of the Cops toys. Gotta get some one day. And with the resale value of this vehicle, it doesn't seem too impossible not to own some pieces of this collection. Okay folks, that was a look at 5 of the Raddest rides from the 80s. Villain Edition. I think this is the second, maybe third time we've done a villain edition of the Raddest rides, and it's always fun to try to find these awesome vehicles. Now, like I said, the first vehicle that we talked about, the Desert Convoy truck, wasn't specifically made for the villains, but we all know where it came from. But everything else on this list is villain tried and true. Now, I apologize if this episode goes by super quick, but I'm dealing with a faulty battery, and I'm just trying to get my spiel out there as quick as I can before it dies, and I'm left in a lurch. So, okay, just a little inside baseball. So, sorry about that. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them, and I love getting back to everyone. And if you're new around here and you enjoyed this, or any of the episodes that YouTube is recommending down here, please hit subscribe. And if you hit that little bell icon, you'll be notified whenever there's a new episode. So anyway, until next time, thanks for watching. Keep being rad, and stay dorky.